Hello everyone.
Hi.
So today we're going to talk about something that we've been hearing a lot about lately, which is sustainability. And particularly today we are talking about sustainable agriculture and the climate change. Do you know there is more than 8.2 billion people on Earth, and that is a lot of mouth to feed. And with the climate change hitting us hard, because it's a lot of climate change happening lately, traditional farming is not enough. It's not enough to keep up with our food demand anymore.
Exactly, that's so true. It is very hot lately. Higher temperature, wet rainfall pattern, and drought are messing with how and where we can grow food.
Which is why we need sustainable agriculture. And this is where Omics technology comes in. Because this technology are tools that help us zoom into plants and see what is happening inside their DNA, their protein, and inside tiny molecules in the plant.
Oh, you mean like genomics? That how we study plant genes?
Yes, because we can find genes that are responsible for traits like drought resistance or disease resistance through these genomics. And it's like decoding a plant survival guide, right?
Right, you are right, Eva. We also have proteomics, which is how we study the plant's protein, which is very important, especially when we need to understand how these plants can survive in harsh environment. And this tool helps us or the breeder to create crops that is more tougher, faster growing, and more efficient with the nutrition, which is exactly what we need in this kind of climate.
Wow. No, so we're not living, it's not a science fiction anymore. It's like we're living in this reality where these technologies are used to improve crop like rice, wheat, and maize.
Yes, that is what Omics technology is for and why it is important.
From here, we have learned that omics tools don't just help us understand the biology. Instead, they let us target specific genes that control vital traits like drought, tolerance, disease resistance, and nutrient efficiency. This is where functional genomics comes in. It helps researchers to pinpoint exactly which genes do what. And for that knowledge is a game changer for modern crop improvement. So, how are they changing the way we grow food? Kev, can you walk us
So
through?
we all know that traditional plant breeding is important, right? But it takes almost 20 years for us to develop a new trait, a new variety. So that is a long term and a long time, and it also requires a lot of money, so it is expensive. And with the current challenges with climate change, we need to up our game. And this addresses the matter of food insecurity as well.
Right. Imagine doing all that and the plants still fail in drought or get wiped out during floods.
Yep, this is why genomics is important. Because like I said, genomics allow us to study the plant genome. And the plant genome, like the DNA, we can modify it. And the first two tools that we used were ZFNS and TALENS. Both of these are not currently used more nowadays, but before it was used. However, ZFNS is complicated because it requires a lot of time and money to design because each part match a specific DNA triplet. While talents, it is easier, but it also match on one base at a time, meaning that we have to build a custom protein for each new target. While in 2013, CRISPR emerged, and with CRISPR, we only need to design a small RNA molecule, RNA, to target the gene that we want. And this way, we can target multiple genes at once. It is faster and it also cheaper.
Definitely. CRISPR is definitely a breakthrough moment. It is way more efficient, accurate, and less time consuming compared to the earlier tools.
Yeah, so CRISPR is used to study the gene and also to introduce beneficial trait in the plants, like in crops like rice and arabidopsis and potatoes. It also allows us to do directional crop improvement and target specific trait that we want, like drought tolerance, disease tolerance, or also efficient nutrition in our crop.
Yeah, and that thanks to technologies like DNA sequencing, genotyping, and molecular markers, all of which make breeding faster and more targeted.
And programs like 1000 KP initiative, it allows us to study more species at a lower cost. An interesting example of this is in China, where they found a gene that is responsible. No, they overexpressed this gene that is found in the rice, and this gene actually caused the yield to increase from 41.3% to 68.3%, and it also shortened the growth period for the rice and also the nitrogen uptake, which means it grows faster and also bigger.
And those traits of early flowering and better nitrogen uptake are huge for farmer, is it? Less fertilizer needed and faster harvest cycle and thus less expenses.
Yep, that is definitely true. Another example is when scientists use CRISPR to edit 25 amino acid in the rice gene. And when they edit this, the result is a higher yield under different circumstances like drought, high and low nitrogen, and also well water condition.
It shows how precise you can get now with genomics. Small edits, big results.
Yep, editing something small, but we get a huge impact. Like in maize, the scientists discovered the gene that is responsible for drought tolerance. So they use marker-assisted selection and backcrossing to incorporate it inside the maize. And this improved the grain yield and also reduced antithesis silking interval, which is critical for during water stress.
Oh, don't forget MAS, marker-assisted recurrent selection. It helps to stack multiple beneficial genes across generations and making crops even stronger in long term.
And also, this not only plays a part in the big tree crop, it also plays in part in crop like potatoes, where inserting a gene from arabidopsis, a small flowering plant, can increase the drought and salt tolerance. In wheat, overexpression of a gene lead to a stronger root system and also higher yield under stress.
I have a fun fact. Do you know that tobacco are often used for testing? They found out there's a heat and salt stress tolerance genes in tobacco, which is most likely they can do it with other food crops.
Wow! Not to mention, just like people, plant also can get sick from bugs, bacteria, and also fungi. So with CRISPR, it actually allowed researchers to up the resistance for this disease. Think of CRISPR like a small scissors that we can tweak the plant DNA in specific ways.
Right. Same goes to MLO gene that found in most plants that make them sick. So they switch off that gene and so that the crop like barley, wheat and tomato can become resistant to disease. In rice, they edit this gene, which get turned on when there is fungus attack, so it stays healthier.
So basically, genomics allow us to breed crop that is more productive, more resilient, and adapt better to harsher environment. And this is all happening faster than we did with traditional breeding.
So, we've seen how genomics can make crops stronger, faster, and smarter. But what does that actually mean on the ground? How do these changes impact farmers, food security, and the environment? So, to break it down, here is Moose with the real-world benefits these technologies are delivering.
The benefits of CRISPR are significant for both economy and environment. When drought-resistant and fewer disease mean higher yield, more consistent harvest, and less risk of losing income. That's a direct economic benefits, especially in regions where crops are under threat from drought and pests. We can also save money from spending on expensive chemicals or irrigation system.
Oh, so it's not just about better crop, it's about saving money and making farming sustainable in long run.
Exactly. And now, on the environmental side, the impact is just as big. Since CRISPR-edited crop can be made resistant to certain disease or pests, we don't need to rely as heavily on chemical pesticide. That means fewer harmful chemicals are getting into ocean, river, and soil.
What about the insect and the living organism?
Reducing pesticide use also protect biodiversity by keeping beneficial insects like bees and butterflies safe, which are crucial to pollination and overall ecosystem balance.
That's a definitely big win for the environment and food security.
Exactly. There is also a total reduction in air pollution because we are using fewer machines to apply those chemicals. And if you think about the carbon emission involved in manufacturing, packaging, transporting, and applying pesticide and fertilizer, cutting those down can significantly shrink the agriculture carbon footprint.
Another major benefit is the reduction in post-harvest losses. With disease-resistant and more robust crops, fewer fruits and vegetables spoil during storage, transport, or in the market itself. And that's the key for sustainability and for feeding more people with fewer resources.
So when we talk about CRISPR, it's not just about a cutting-edge science. It's about a practical, planet-friendly innovation, less crop loss, bigger yields, less chemicals, and more income for farmers.
You're right, Mira. CRISPR isn't just rewriting DNA, it's about rewriting the future of farming.
Agriculture today faces big challenges: climate stress, growing populations, and the demand for sustainable practices. To meet these needs, we can't rely on traditional methods alone. Scientists are now looking deep inside plants to find answers. These segments will focus on how proteomics has been used to study plant responses to stress.
We've just covered how better crops can boost profit and help the environment. But how do we actually make this improvement happen?
This is where proteomics comes in. So Eva, this is your specialty. How about you explain to us how actually proteomics help us understand how plants stress and improve the food quality?
Absolutely, Kev. So, proteomics is like opening a window into the plant's internal world, and in this case, proteins are the key players in how plants function and respond to their environment. And when a plant is stressed, let's say from drought or too much salt, it starts changing the proteins it produces, and these proteins are like the plant's emergency toolkit. By studying them, we can figure out which ones help the plants to survive and thrive.
So it's not just about what gene a plant has, but what protein it's actually using in real time.
Exactly. Genes here are the blueprint, but proteins are the tools. For example, in rice, proteomics has helped identify proteins that kick in during drought, and these proteins help the plant to retain water and protect its cells. And that is huge for developing drought-resistant variants, and which, by the way, ties back to the conversation we had just now, which is about economic and environmental benefits.
Right, less crop failure, less need for irrigation, more stable food supply.
Yes, and it's not just about stress. Proteomics is also helping us improve food quality. And for example, in tomatoes, scientists have mapped out proteins that involve in ripening, and these helping the breeders to create tomatoes to taste better and last longer on the shelf. So we are not just growing food that is nutritious, but it's also we are growing food that is more appealing and less likely to go to waste.
So yummier food.
Yes.
And that kind of data is not just sitting in the textbook, right? It is actually discovered in an experiment in real time. And proteomics is actually what gives us that dynamic picture.
Exactly, and beyond crops, researchers are using proteomics to study food spoilage in storage. By understanding this, which protein trigger deterioration, we can better preserve the post-harvest food.
Yes, and it really connects all parts of the food chain, from the farm to the table. And proteomics isn't just lab work, it's also about creating real-world impact in agriculture and food security.
Improving crops is just one part of the story. At the end of the day, what really matters is the safety and quality of the food we eat. From invisible toxins to allergens and chemical residues, there are many risks that can enter our food supply. That's why researchers are turning to proteomics not just to grow better crops, but to make our entire food system safer from farm to fork. Eva, walk us through this segment.
Alright, in the last segment, we looked at how proteomics help us to understand how plants respond to stress, like drought or diseases, and how it can be used to improve the quality of the food they produce.
But now, let's switch the gears up a bit. Beyond improving crops, proteomics is also playing a huge role in something that affects all of us directly, which is making sure our food is safe to eat. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about growing more food, it's also about growing safe and healthy food. So Mira, can you start us off with an example of how proteomics help us with that?
Sure. One of the big concerns in crops like maize is a toxin called aflatoxin. It is found in fungus and it can be dangerous if it is end up in our food. So, researchers are using proteomics to spot early warning signs. Basically, they look at which proteins in the plant change when this fungus start to take over. So that means that contaminated crops can be identified and removed before it being processed into our food.
So instead of waiting for people to get sick, we are now able to detect the problem way earlier?
Yeah.
That's a big step forward. Now what about something more common like food allergies?
Yeah, that's another area where proteomics comes in because, take wheat for example. So wheat has a protein that causes certain reaction with people who have wheat intolerance or gluten sensitivity. So scientists use proteomics to find out exactly which protein is responsible, and with that they can create a variety of wheat which has lower allergen but it's still safe to grow and eat.
True, that's super helpful, and especially for people those who are fully allergic but still have hard time digesting certain foods.
Yep.
So what about pesticides and chemical residues? I think that's something a lot of people that's still worrying about.
Yeah, definitely. Proteomics is also being used to figure out which protein in plants help them naturally resist pests and diseases. So, instead of relying heavily on pesticides, we can breed crops that are more resistant on their own. That means fewer chemicals needs to be used and there's a less risk of residue left in our food that we eat.
Wow, that's a win-win. Safer food and healthier farming practices.
Right.
Exactly, and the cool part is proteomics doesn't just help when something goes wrong, it also helps us prevent the problem before they even start.
Yeah, it's like giving crops a way to talk to us through their proteins. And if we knew how to listen, we can protect the food system better. So whether it's stopping toxin, reducing allergens, or using a few chemicals, proteomics is playing a pretty important role in keeping our food safer.
Yep.
Alright, thanks everyone. Coming up next, we'll be looking ahead at how genomics and proteomics could shape the future of agriculture with smarter tools, newer technologies, and even more ways to build climate resilient and sustainable crops. Stay with us.
We are coming to the end of the podcast, but before that, let's explore the future direction of omics in agriculture. As the climate grows harsher and the resources become tighter, the future of farming demands more than tradition. It calls for bold innovation, powered by data, insight, and the ability to see life complexity like never before. So Mira, can you walk us through what lies ahead for omics in agriculture?
Alright, we've already talked about how proteomics and genomics help in improving crops and food safety. But what's next? Where this is all heading? The future of agriculture is becoming more connected, more data-driven, and honestly smarter. Scientists are now working on combining all kinds of biological data in what's called multi-omics. That includes genomics, proteomics, transcriptomics, metabolomics, you name it. By looking at all of these data together, we can get a complete picture of how plants grow, respond to stress, and defend themselves. It's like going from a black and white sketch to a full color 3D models of how a plant works.
Exactly. So that means we can analyze DNA and protein at the same time. Such a groundbreaking technology. And this kind of data integration help us make faster and more accurate decisions when developing new crop varieties, whether it's for drought resistant, higher yield, or better nutrition.
Thus, with new technology like artificial intelligence and machine learning, they can speed up this process because they can help us to analyze massive amount of omic data and help spot patterns that human might miss.
And with tools like CRISPR gene editing, scientists now can use those insights to precisely edit specific genes and basically giving plants the traits they need to handle future challenges like climate changes or pests.
So, the future of agriculture isn't just about better seeds. It's about building resilient, sustainable, and smart food systems using power of the omics and technology. And honestly, that future is already starting now.
And that brings us to the end of our podcast on functional genomics and proteomics in agriculture. We covered a lot, starting from understanding how plants respond to stress, improving our food safety, and also how omic technology is shaping the future of farming.
Yeah, it's exciting to see something as detailed as protein or gene analysis can actually help solve really big challenges like food security and climate changes.
And the best part is, this technology is becoming more accessible. What used to be done in high-tech lab is now starting to reach the field and the farm that need it.
Yes, exactly. Whether it's breeding stronger crops, reducing pesticide use, or ensuring food safety, Omics is giving us better tools to build a more sustainable future.
Okay, we hope this gives you a clear idea of what's happening behind the scene of modern technology and modern agriculture, where science and technology are working together to develop our food system to be more smarter and safer and more resilient. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my amazing co-host for the great conversation. Until next time, I hope that we can see you again and keep growing your curiosity.
Bye! Thank you for watching!